Alright, hello everyone, welcome back. It's that time of the week, it's time for some more PSGL Formula 7, and today we arrive at Jeddah for round 9 of this season 31 championship. As you can see, we have a decent 16 drivers with us tonight, but one person we don't have with us tonight is sadly Storm. He wasn't able to make it tonight, as I think he was on holidays, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But we're going to power on without him for this round 9 of the championship. And speaking of the championship, taking a quick look at the standings right now, we have Kart Racer out in P1 with 68 points to his name. And then in P2, we obviously have LFR Ian, who was promoted to Formula 5. And then in P3, 5 points off of the championship lead, we have the reserve of XRT Bruno FA. And then P4 in the championship is Oli Olaf, but he has exactly half of Kart Racer's 68 points. So really, there's a lot of rounds left to go. Let me just check here for you all. There's 11 rounds in this championship, and we're in round 9. We have 3 rounds to go, including this one. And really, there's only 2 championship contenders remaining, and that is the Alfa Romeo of Kart Racer and the McLaren, or the reserve driver even, of XRT Bruno. So, yeah, it's a 2-man fight right now in this championship battle. With then you have the Aston Martin driver of Oli Olaf, but like I said, has half the points of Kart Racer. So it's turned out very interestingly between the Alfa Romeo driver and the reserve driver, and you can see we're riding on board with our championship leader right now in PSGL's Formula 7. And you can see he is about to start his lap time, so we're going to ride on board with him to get a view of this Jeddah circuit and see truly how fast you have to go around here, as there are plenty of high-speed corners at this Saudi Arabian circuit. So you can see coming out of the final turn, a wide line to get yourself the best possible exit coming onto this main straight now as we come into the chicane of turn 1 and 2, and you can see taking that pretty nicely and sets himself up nicely for this run out of turn 3. And then we approach turn 4, Alex G saying a 29 flat, Kart Racer's teammate. And you can see coming through this very tricky first sector, it's very easy to invalidate here, but you can see Kart Racer showing us why he's a championship leader, taking that very, very nicely indeed. And we now come to turn 13, very long left-hander. You have to keep up the minimum speed, but also make sure that you set yourself up quite nicely for the exit, which is exactly what Kart Racer has done. Now into yet another high-speed chicane at this Jeddah circuit. You can see a little bit of traffic ahead of him. Thankfully, the half car getting out of his way as he continues on with this lap time. You can see the flat-out turns in this sector 2, and then we finally meet this chicane of turn 22 and 23. And I'm fairly sure this is the track with the most turns on the F1 calendar, as most of them are just slight bends where you go absolutely flat out. And you can see we've already approached the final turn of turn 27. Takes out very nice. You can see using the full width of the track, getting as close as you like to those barriers on exit. And as we come across the line, is it good enough for provisional pole position? No, it's not. It's very close though between the Alfa Romeo and the Aston Martin. Kart Racer goes P2 with a 28.2, 1/10 off of that provisional pole time. You can see we've got what seems to be a couple of new faces here today. We have LFR Evo Master, the Latam Formula Racer driver, currently P3 with a 28.4. Obviously only 7 drivers have set a lap time. You can see the International Racing Team driver of Patser Japser is currently P4 with a 28.8, and you have Alex G, Pro Gamer in P6 and Wama in P7. There are plenty of people yet to set a lap time. GSP Payne, I'm not sure if this is his first appearance or not. I think it could be. We also have Fufu. This is definitely his first appearance. We can see Daniel changing his name, so now he has the SXT in his name. You can see we just switched to Bugatti there as soon as he went for his spin. That's a spin at turn 23. He's hit into the barriers and he is now out of the session. You can see he's been struggling with consistency all season, and showing us why there. And we also have IRT Renz in the Red Bull making his first appearance in Formula 7. So we can see a lot of new faces. I think that's due to the fact a lot of people turning off that pesky racing line, getting their no assist game on, and then using the PSGL mid-season signups. We have a couple more races here today, and it's going to be interesting to see how that affects the top guys. But just looking here for someone who's on a lap, you can see Clark on his out lap along with SFC Daniel. You can see Miku now starting his lap time very close to the back of our new driver IRT Rents. We're going to ride on board with him to see how fast he can go. You can see into turn 1 very early turning in point, so we can use the full width of the track for this turn 2 and then get a decent run through that turn 3, setting himself up nicely for this turn 4. You can see he went quite deep into there, not ideal, hits the barrier at turn 5. Now these very, very tricky section here in the first sector, really easy to invalidate, but you can see takes off very nicely and very cleanly too. So we now come into the middle sector. Turn 13 is the next turn. You can see using really getting tight to the wall there on entry. Not the best exit, I don't think, but he's continuing on. As you can see, we now come into this high-speed chicane here. You need to get as close as you can to that wall on the inside. You can see a little bit of a tap to the barrier on the outside. So you can see he's tapped quite a few walls on this lap. So he's going to lose a little bit of momentum each time that happens. We now come into the final sector, turn 22 and 23. You can see there was hesitation on the turn in there. It turns in, out, and then back in, and that caused him to go deep. Not a good exit, and a crucial exit that turn 23 is, because then you have this long DRS straight, which brings you to the final turn. You can see he goes completely wide into there, and it's not been a good lap time from IRT Rensby. He's going to complete it to get himself that time delta, and it's 28.7. So even after that, plenty of mistakes on that lap time, puts him P5 in the session. So that just shows the potential he has in this session, and could even be battling for pole position. I think there's definitely a good 5-6 tenths in that lap time, especially out that final turn, definitely losing him about 3 tenths. So IRT Rens, in his debut in Formula 7, could be one of the drivers to watch. But you can see LFR Evil Master, I think he's just finishing up his lap time. No, he's just starting his lap time, so let's ride on board with him. Another new driver here in PSGL's Formula 7. See, into turn 1, that's a very early turn in, and you can see that has invalidated his lap time. So it's really gutting for a driver when straight after the first turn they've invalidated their lap time. So this means you have to drive this entire in lap. You can see struggling through turn 4 there, and I think he was pushing to just see what potential he has and what kind of time he can get in this midpoint of the session, even if it wasn't valid. But you can see provisional pole man of Miguel also has done the same as Evil Master, and he's invalidated his time. Kart Racer on his outlap, getting out of the way of a couple of drivers. SXT Daniel manages to put it on provisional pole. That's a great lap from him, 28.1, but he gets absolutely smashed by the man in P4 in the standings, the Aston Martin of Olaf, going to a P1 with a 27.7 of rapid time from him. He's going to be extremely happy with that one. Technically, I don't think he's out of this championship battle, but he'd pretty much have to win this race and the next two, while his rival Kart Racer DNF. So seems unlikely for Olaf, but obviously he's going to keep pushing on, try to get the best results possible. Whereas for a lot of other drivers, there's not going to be that championship tension for them, so they can just go full send and try to get the best result that they possibly can. You can see we've actually gone up to 17 drivers, so someone was able to join there in the qualifying session. That's good to see. So we now have 17 drivers. That's plenty of drivers, only missing 3 today. So decent attendance from these guys. You see Kart Racer now currently P4 with his 28.2, looking to improve into turn 1 now. You can see late turn in and sets himself up really nicely. He's a full width of the track at turn 1. He took that very nicely. So that's going to gain him a tenth or two. Now into turn 3, you can see turned in a little bit too early there. Manages not to invalidate his lap time, but you've got to ask the question of, has he got front wing damage? You can see he's not set himself up nicely because of that for this the tricky bends of sector 1. Somehow though manages to keep valid and is only 11/1000 down this time, so he still could find improvement even with this lap time. You see going for exit over entry there, using getting close to the wall while also getting on the power as early as possible. Now into the chicane, doesn't get very close to the wall on the inside, and settles the car just slightly there by riding that curb. And obviously the underfloors on these new 2022 cars really don't react nicely when you ride over them with the curb. Into here, 22, you can see he's not taking that nicely. This is a very scruffy lap, hits the wall, abandons the lap times. Kart Racer, currently P4, needs to find improvement there, as he is not taking that very nicely at all. So I think he's going to either come back into pit lane or maybe go again. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have wing damage. And if you look at his ERS, he's going to go for another lap in a row. No, he's not. He's coming back into the pit lane. He obviously just didn't turn off the hot lap ERS mode. So he comes back into pit lane. 6 minutes left to go in this session, and he is only going to have time to do one more lap, if I had to guess. You can see Elfar Evil Master on an out lap. XRT Bruno managed to set a lap time. He was struggling to set a lap time so far in the session, but manages to go P6 right behind his reserve teammate, if I had to guess. I can check for you now if he's a reserve. Obviously, that's just what I would assume, since this is his, first race here, or maybe there was a seat available. And if I check here, yeah, he is a reserve, and I assume most of the new drivers racing today are reserve drivers. But you can see that's a lap time there from the Hash driver of GSP Payne. I think he might have done one race in this division, although I'm not too sure. But he goes P2 with a 28-point flat. So if this is his first race here, although no, I don't think it is. I think he did race in Mexico, I think it was, and he finished on the podium for Mercedes, almost a 1-2 for Mercedes on that day, when I think it was QRT Ian was still racing in this division. But GSP Payne is back for another race, and what you can see is competitive as ever, 3/10 off of the pole time, and currently P2 in this session. So you can see the gap that Olaf has over the rest of the grid. You can see LFR Evil Master now about to start his next lap time in this session. Does he turn in as early? No, he does not. He actually turns in quite late to make sure that he doesn't invalidate his lap time. But I think in turn, playing it safe there has lost him a little bit of time. So I assume he's going to try and find the most time in the rest of this lap. Took that turn 4, I should say, very, very nicely. Full width of the track, as close to the walls. You really need to be using the full width of the track and getting as close to the walls as possible at this track. That is probably the most crucial thing all the time. You want to be inches away from the wall. You can see what that's done to Evil Master's lap time. He's 3/10 up, and that's out of the first sector alone. So that just shows how quickly he's going so far in this lap. And now into this high speed chicane, you can see the speed carrying 5th gear through there, and so much pace is able to be taken through there, and it's going to gain you plenty of lap time. We're now going to see the sector split from Evil Master, and 4/10 up in his time. This could be a very fast time. Slightly misses the apex there of that turn 22, so that's not going to help out his lap time, but still going strong. And you can see he's only got one more turn to go. How quickly can he take this? And let's see, he can see getting close to the wall, not as close as he maybe would have wanted to, but it's still taking that nicely. So we've now just got this main DRS straight to go, and the time on the board is a 27.9. He puts it onto the provisional front row, and that is a very quick time from him. But now the question stands, can he get back to the pit lane in time to set another lap time? And I think the answer is no. So that is most likely going to be LFR Evil Master's final lap time. You can see most people are in the pit lane. Aishaki has just come out for his out lap, and a Red Bull driver too. So let's take a quick look at the current provisional standings. We have Olaf on provisional pole position, 2/10 ahead of the reserve driver of Evil Master, who's put in a 27.9. We then have GSP Payne, the only man in the 28 flats. He's P3 in the session. Now the two drivers in the 28.1s, that's Daniel and Miguel. We then go to the 28.2s, that's Kart Racer. He needs to find improvement if he wants to continue his championship reign, or battle I should say, because he's got his rival XRT Bruno 2/10 behind. So both drivers are going to be looking to improve. You have Pro Gamer in P8 with the 28.5, and the 0.6s, it's the CPI driver of Clark, and then Aisharki also in the 0.6. IRT Renz in his first race, not going well so far, but we saw that his first lap wasn't the greatest, and he wasn't able to improve on his second lap, so I think he could have invalidated, so expect a big time from him possibly. We have Pater Japser in P12 for Mercedes. Miku in P13. Alex G, not a good qualifying session so far. 29 flat, 1.3 off of the provisional pole time in P14. And then Wama down in P15. Bugatti out of the session, and Fufu in his first race has also retired from the session. So if you look for a driver to ride on board with, you can see LFR Evil Master not going to get another lap time in this session. But I think one person who might be interesting to ride on board with is the McLaren reserve of XRT Bruno. So let's see. Championship contender reserve driver, I might add. 5 points off of the championship lead. Let's see what he can do in the final few moments of this qualifying session. A good exit out of the final turn using a very wide line to set himself up nicely for this final lap time. And let's see how he can hustle this McLaren around this street circuit. Into turn 1, braking at 100 meters, then hitting that apex nicely. You can see didn't use as much curb for turn 1, and usually you want to use a lot more curb for turn 2 if you do that. Wasn't able to manage that, so not been a good turn 1 and 2, although takes that turn 4 very, very nicely, using that track and getting his car up on the curb. Now into this tricky section, trying to carry as much speed as possible. A bit, I think about 2 lifts there going into that turn 10, so not ideal. But into turn 13 now, you can see keeping up the minimum speed and then also getting as close to the wall to get that good exit. And we now come into this high-speed chicane. Can he get close enough to the wall? Yes, he can. Takes that very nicely. Carries 6th gear through there. Absolutely rapid from the McLaren reserve. Now onto this long, what is now a DRS straight for the Formula 1 22 game. Into turn 22 now, and the start of sector 3, not getting that close to the wall. Maybe that's because he's setting himself up nicely for this main straight. You can see rode the curb of that turn 23, and surprisingly didn't unsettle the car, so the car was able to handle it. Now into the final of turn 27, if I'm not mistaken, and let's see, it's a good exit through there, but what kind of time can he put in at the end of this qualifying session across the line? It's a 28 flat, and he goes behind his reserve teammate of Evil Master, but then Daniel goes P2 with the 27.9. Great lap time from him. GSP Payne improves to P2 with the 27.8. Our provisional poleman is still currently on lap time, although he's abandoned this lap time, so he's not going to improve, but no one has beaten his lap time so far. Clark not on the lap, he's invalidated. IRT Renz is about to come across the line. He's improving by 0.5 of a second. How much did he find in the final turn? A good, no, I think he actually lost time in the final turn, because he goes P10 with a 28.4, manages to beat his teammate, and then Clark has obviously invalidated his lap time. Meanwhile, Olaf comes back into the pit lane. So there you go, Olaf, the man in P4 in the championship, has been decently consistent this season, and he puts it on pole position for round 9 here at PSGL's Formula 7 season 31. So the Aston Martin driver takes pole by it's a very, very small margin between himself and GSP Payne, only about 3/100ths between them. So very, very close, and wasn't able to get that final lap time in either. So that's a lap time, if I'm not mistaken, that might have been his first, maybe second lap time. I'm not too sure, but he said it quite early on in the session. And for it to hold up that well for the rest of it, quite impressive from the Aston Martin driver. We obviously have GSP Payne returning after Mexico, and yeah, showing that he is competitive as ever. Puts it on P2. See 38/1000ths away from pole position. We then have SXT Daniel putting a P3. That's a surprising performance from the AlphaTauri driver. We don't usually see him up there, so it's always good to see him up there. LFR Evil Master for his first race in F7 is just 8/1000ths away from P3, so good lap time from him, and he's able to beat their championship contender Bruno. But Bruno crucially is finishing ahead of Kart Racer in this qualifying session, P5 and P6 for the two contenders. But it's going to be an interesting race, this one, and these drivers have got it all to play for. Remember, a lot of them well, they're new drivers, so they're trying to show everyone what they're made of, but also a couple of drivers, they've been here for most of the season, and they've got that championship tension off of their back. They don't have to worry about it anymore. It's just about going full send and getting the best result possible. So let's see if these drivers can do just that. So coming into this round, I think it's going to be a pretty similar strategy as we see at most tracks on this Formula 1 22 game. It's most likely going to be a medium hard or a hard medium. anyone who starts on the mediums is most likely going to be banking on an early safety car so they can make that switch to hards and get to the end of the race. Anyone starting on hards, though, they'll be hoping for no safety cars, get the overcut, and be on the softer compounded tyres towards the end of the race. That is definitely the ideal strategy, but like I said, safety cars can play into it. No formation lap, though, so we're getting straight into the action with 5 red lights. They're gone and we're away. What kind of start is it for our poleman of Olaf here against GSP Payne? And it looks like a good one. GSP Payne, though, tries to pull alongside. You can see one of the McLarens has broken too late. That's out of our Evo Master, gone straight into the back of the Haas driver of GSP Payne. So it's not been a good start to the race for Evo Master. Car Racer finds himself in P2 somehow. Meanwhile, Bruno falls all the way down to P10. So a bit of carnage has gone on there. At the turn 1, SXT Daniel already has a time penalty, and that's a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. I'm sure he's probably going to be able to get that removed because there was just so much chaos, and he was most likely just trying to avoid it. Patzer Japser finds himself all the way up in P4. It's been a good start for himself, and IRT Renz gets all the way up to P5, and the top 5 has already broken the 1 second gap to the guys behind. So we're going to have to analyse what happened there on that lap 1. But as we continue on here, SXT Daniel is getting quite feisty on the back of our championship leader of Kart Racer. Not going to be looking for a move into turn 22 though. You can see very close to the back of him. Had to turn in a little bit too early there, and that's cost him a little bit of time. He's on medium compound tyres and not using any ERS yet. He's pressuring Kart Racer to make a move, so Kart Racer now looks to the outside of Olaf. SXT Daniel is going to try and follow him through, maybe go for the switchback. No, he's going to try and follow him through, but he's gone very wide into there, and that's because he's actually alongside with the Mercedes of Japser. And you can see Kart Racer now using a little bit of ZRS, but so is Daniel. He tries to find the space, but Kart Racer's sandwiching him in behind Olaf. They now go side by side. No, they don't. Daniel has actually made his way into P2, so the AlphaTauri driver off to a good start, although that 3-second time penalty will affect him. Hopefully he can get it removed after the race. Patzer Japser has had a great start along with IRT Rent, and these guys have already pulled away from the rest of the grid, so it looks like it's going to be a battle between the top 5. Patzer Japser getting very close to the back of Kart Racer, and that's because he made a mistake going through there. That could possibly be a warning for extending the track limits for the Mercedes driver, and didn't wear those, he'll be getting himself a 3-second time penalty just like SXT Daniel. But Olaf off at the start of this race, you can see like we saw in turn 1, Evil Master completely missing his braking zone, hitting into the back and pretty much ruining GSP Payne's great qualifying session. But IRT Renz now looking for the move on his international racing team teammate of Japser and moves himself up into P4. 6 places gained off of that race start. Good start from him, but you can see Bruno, you can see Fufu, who started all the way from the back of the grid, is now battling it out with the reserve driver of Bruno, who lets him through. We saw a couple of drivers going off track. I'm not sure what happened there, but obviously didn't think the move was fair. But we're also seeing a battle for the lead right now as SXT Daniel is trying to find a way past Olaf, not using a lot of ERS out of that final turn. He doesn't want to make a move, but then turns it on after because he's trying to get that top speed up. Now coming into turn 1, can he brake later with these medium compound tires? He scares Olaf off his line, doesn't commit to the move. That's because he's going for the switchback out of turn 2, now into turn 3, side by side, but it looks like Olaf is going to maintain that position for now. SXT Daniel has to slot in P2, and he's going to have to be a little more patient until he can make that move for the lead of the race, as he really needs to make the most of these medium compound tires. You see Olaf going wide there, SXT Daniel following him through. But yeah, if we have a quick look at the tires here, we'll talk about strategy in just a moment because we haven't really had a stop of the action. You can see half the grid split with, well, a little more than half of the grid on hards and then a little less on the mediums. See, IRT Ren's really making some move now. That's on Kart Racer. He's on the medium compound tires, to be fair, so he's going to have a lot more grip than this hard runner of Kart Racer. But you see Kart Racer starting to fight back. He has the power of the DRS. Is he going to be looking for a move into turn 22? Lifts off of the throttle, doesn't want to make a move into this high speed chicane, which is probably quite wise, and shows why he's leading and getting those consistent results. You can see the helicopter shot as we see SXT Daniel look to the outside. The power of the DRS on this back straight. He makes his way past Olaf. This now means Olaf has the power of the DRS for this very long pitch straight. Is he going to try and gain the place back, or is Daniel going to use all of his ERS to maintain this P1 for now? You can see Olaf not looking for a move just yet. Is he going to pull out the slipstream at the final second? No, he is not. Maintains P2 for now, and it's now Daniel's job to try and pull away as he has that medium runner. Patzer Japser now finds his way past Kart Racer, moves himself up into P4, so Kart Racer has fallen down a few positions, but that's because he is on the hard compounded tyres, so he doesn't have to worry about that. He'll be on much faster tyres towards the end of the race. Yellow flag in the third sector. That's because Wama has come into the pit lane and retired from the race. Meanwhile, IRT Ren's get himself a 3-second time penalty. That is going to cost them dearly at the final classification. LFR Evil Master had to box early on after losing his wing. Gets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix and is down in P16, though 17 seconds off of the rest of the grid. Meanwhile, we see Clark, the CPI driver, making a move on XRT Bruno, who's fallen down quite a bit. I'm not too sure why that is. Possibly a spin, maybe contact between himself and Fufu. I'm not too sure about that one, although it could have been, as yeah, I'm not too sure. He's now down in P12 though, and in a DRS train that goes all the way to P9. So that's not good for him, but IRT Renz has made a mistake at the exit of turn 23. Obviously rode that curb on the exit of turn 23, maybe just a bit too aggressively, or maybe turned in too aggressively into turn 22, but he's now down in P6, 3-second time penalty, and he's got his teammate of Pro Gamer on the back of him, but on the harder compounded tires, he's going to get a nice dose of the DRS. Patzer Japser, now that IRT Renz has spun, he's got a bit of a gap between himself and the top two. You can see no DRS down that pit straight. He needs to now make up the time to these top two so he can continue the battle for a possible race win in his debut here. At least I think it's his debut. It might not be, I could be mistaken, although it's going to be a lot more difficult to win with a 3-second time penalty. You saw it just went a little too deep into turn 4 and 5. That has caused him to get a 3-second time penalty. That's going to hurt him towards the end of the race. You can see Miguel trying to push on, trying to catch up to this top 4, but sadly just has not got enough pace on these hard compound tires. Obviously the leader of the DRS train is the medium runner of Daniel, but you can see Olaf makes a mistake on the exit of turn 13, must have gotten on the power a bit too early. He's now under pressure from IRT Renz, who also had a spin. IRT Renz moves himself up into P5. Olaf falls to P6, and once again there's a gap between Japser and Daniel ahead of him. So he needs to make up this gap. You can see a little bit of hesitation on the turn in there, so lost him a little bit of time. He's now 1.4 seconds down, and he's going to be under a lot of pressure from Kart Race behind, who has the power of the DRS, has the power of the ERS. Not going to look for a move into this final turn of turn 27, but turn 1 is looking a lot more likely for a lunge from Kart Racer. No ERS on the exit of that final turn. So maybe he's not looking for a move, or maybe he's relying solely on the power of the DRS. And no, you can see he does not want to make a move. He knows that Japser has the medium compounded tires, has the grip over Kart Racer. So he's going to continue on behind Japser and hope that the Mercedes drivers can catch up to the race leader of Daniel. But you can see shuffling in the background there, Fufu and Olaf decides to come into the pit lane onto the a set of soft compound tires. Must have broken his wing, now banking on a safety car so that he can make another stop to hards, or mediums I should say, and make it until the end of the Grand Prix. So he's going for a bit of a two-stop strategy here, but I think we're getting a little bit of a break from the action here, as it's been a bit non-stop between all of these drivers, especially at the front. So let's take a quick look at our race positions as of right now. We have Daniel leading the race with what I believe to be a false 3-second time penalty. He's on medium compound tires. He's got a big gap to the drivers behind, and he's pushing on and using the most of this rubber, and also his ERS is down to about 12%. So he's making sure to take advantage of this race lead in clean air while he has it. Meanwhile, Kart Racer is now making the move. That promotes him to P2. He's on the hard compound tires and has 0 seconds of time penalties. So he's in a good position right now. Japser has just been overtaken. He's on mediums and has not got the pace to keep up with the hard runner of Kart Racer. He falls down to P3, but after his 3-second time penalty has been applied, he's going to fall behind Miguel. So Miguel currently on a net podium right now for Aston Martin, so at least they have one driver in a good position after a disappointing spin from Olaf. Then we have IRT Renz currently P5 for Red Bull, although that 3-second time penalty once again going to hurt him towards the end of the race, but almost 3 seconds behind is GSP Payne on the hard compounded tyres. And now we get to see a couple of the hard compound tyre runners who are going for that overcut, and they're going to have a lot pressure upper towards the end of the race. So don't think that the pace they have now is all they've got to offer. Right behind Payne is Pro Gamer in the Red Bull. Then we have the CPI driver of Clark in the Williams. XRT Bruno trying to catch up to the DRS train of P6, 7 and 8 so he can gain a little bit of pace from that rear wing flap. We then have Ice Sharky right behind him, putting plenty of pressure under him to make up the gap to the drivers ahead. Miku also in this DRS train, along with Alex G. He's on medium compound tyres, so he's going to start to run out of grip soon enough. Then we have Olaf quite a while back. He's on a 2-stop strategy as he's moved to the soft compound of tyres. Bugatti down in P14. Fufu down in P15, although he's going to be trying to go to the end of the race. You can see turns in too early there, hits the wall. So that could possibly have broken his front wing. And then we have Evil Master dead last after braking too late into turn 1 and pretty much ruining GSP Payne's race. But someone's race who's just been ruined is Clark, and he's also caused a full course safety car. So the full course safety car has been released after a spin from Clark. That's out of the final turn. We'll be able to see riding on board with Olaf. You can see could have possibly been contacted. There's some very late wheel spin from the CPI driver that I'm not too sure of, but he is now out of the session. And the first crash we've seen today is obviously Wama came into the pit lane to retire from the session. So let's take a quick look at the strategies right now of all the drivers. This is exactly what I was talking about before the race start. Anyone who starts on the mediums is banking on an early safety car, and they've looked out here. They're now on the better strategy compared to the hard runners. The hard runners would have had a much nicer time if there were no safety cars at all, but chances are there is going to be a safety car in a race like this, especially at a street circuit like Jeddah, where it's so easy to make a mistake. So we have SXT Daniel. If you look at all the drivers who are currently on the mediums, Alex the G, IRT Renz, IRT Patzer Japser, and SXT Daniel, they will all be coming into the pit lane for a fresh set of hard compound tyres. Meanwhile, all the hard runners, well, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Do they decide to box to the mediums? The mediums will not make it until the end of the race, so if they decide to go to mediums or softs, they're looking at a 2-stop strategy. Maybe they're banking on another safety car if they do so. So Daniel comes into the pit lane. Does Kart Racer follow him in? Yes is the answer. I think he'll be going to the mediums and then softs at the end, or maybe banking on another safety car. Japser comes into the pit lane. Miguel, Renz, Payne, Pro Gamer decides to stay out. So this is the first hard compound runner that we're seeing staying out of the pit lane. Meanwhile, everyone else comes in. So maybe banking on another safety car. I think a lot of drivers who are boxing are banking on safety cars. You can always bank on safety cars, but it just depends. Obviously, Pro Gamer wants one in just about 6 laps time, whereas someone like Kart Racer wants it in about 10 laps time. So I think most drivers could do with a safety car, but anyone who is just boxed for fresh hards is not someone who wants a safety car in this race. This now gives another chance to the reserve driver in his debut of Evil Master after what was disappointing to see from him. Obviously pretty much taking out Payne and causing a lot of carnage at turn 1. Maybe it wasn't him, maybe I'm wrong about that, maybe it was someone, maybe he got hit from behind as well. I'm not too sure, although the contact that he made with Payne would say otherwise, but we'll have to see. As you can see, he's now coming across the finish line down in P15 on hard tyres that can make it till the end of the race, so he has got no more stops to do, and he's now going to have another chance to battle with all of these PSGL Formula 7 guys. So let's see, where has everyone filtered out after the pit stop glitch? And well, if you don't know about the pit stop glitch, you come to a complete stop in the pit lane sometimes for absolutely no reason at all. So the grid order gets pretty much completely changed whenever there's a safety car. So you can see Daniel, who was leading this race, is now down in P4. Thank you, Codemasters. But Patser Japser has moved up to a net P2 with Kart Racer managing to jump Daniel and take the net race lead, currently P2 and on medium compound tyres, although he still has a stop to make, so technically not the net race lead. We then have Miguel maintaining his position, Renz maintaining his position, Payne, Olaf moves up a few as he decides to stay out on his soft compounded tyre. He's obviously going to try and stretch this until he can take mediums until the end. Ice Sharky in P9, Alex G taking these tyres to the end. Bruno down in P11. It's not been a good race so far. Really needs to pick it up here if he wants to continue to battle it out for the championship here in F7 with the Alfa Romeo of Kart Racer. Miku now P11 after Olaf makes a stop. Fufu in P12 for his first race. Bugatti struggles with consistency all season, so he's down towards the back end of the grid, down in P13 for Ferrari, and then obviously the reserve driver of Evil Master down in P14. So if we take a look here at how many positions he gained, you can see Pro Gamer gains 10 positions, but he has not moved himself in this race. Kart Racer, good race from him so far, gained 4 positions. Patser Japser has gained 5. Ice Sharky has obviously had the best first 10 laps as he gains 6 positions, moves all the way from P14 to P8, and someone who's had the worst first 10 laps, well, it's Olaf after having that spin box for softs and now is boxed again for a set of medium compound tyres. Another man who's had a very bad start is Evil Master after that turn 1 incident, had to do an entire lap with absolutely no front wing, and in the words of Jarno Otmir, not ideal. So if we also take a quick look at the penalties, a lot of people, 6 drivers to be exact, have 3-second time penalties. Some of them who are further up the grid are Patser Japser, SXT Daniel, although like I said, I think I'll definitely be removed at the end of the race, and IRT Renz has a 3-second time penalty. And then further back we have Miku, Fufu, Bugatti, all with 3-second time penalties. But if I am not mistaken, safety car is going to come in this lap, and there's the call from race control. So we're going to ride on board with the Red Bull of Pro Gamer to see where does he pick his restart point, and whether or not he gets a good restart up against Kart Racer. Obviously he has much worn tyres and also harder tyres than Kart Racer, so he's going to struggle to pull away off of this final turn. So let's see the safety car making its way back to the pit lane. It's not back yet, so the Red Bull driver can't go, although he's trying to go. Is he going to get limited by the game? It doesn't look like it, so he's picked his time, and his time is now, and it looks like a good restart up against Kart Racer. 4/10 gap is the gap between the two drivers. Definitely a good restart out of that final turn. No moves being made in the background, although LFR Evil Master defending from Olaf. Olaf breaks too late. He's done a bit of an Evil Master into turn 1, and that has caused Bugatti to spin. He lets Evil Master through there, and Olaf is going to be disappointed with himself as he now gets a 3-second time penalty. So it's really not been a good race for the Aston Martin, but we now see Kart Racer looks to the inside in turn 13, doesn't commit to the move just yet. GSP Payne though is going to commit to a move on IRT Renz, the inside line for this turn 13. You can see pushing him all the way to the wall. It gets that move done up at P6 for the Haas driver, who's on pretty much a recovery drive right now. And since he's a reserve, he's going to be going absolutely full send to gain as many positions as possible. He now has to catch up to the 1-second gap of the Aston Martin ahead of EWS Miguel. But you can see Kart Racer putting all kinds of pressure on Pro Gamer ahead of him, and he's now looking to the outside into this turn 26. Hasn't got alongside though coming into this turn 27, but you can see he's now made the move around the outside. Meanwhile, the AlphaTauri driver is trying to make a move on Patser Japser. It doesn't work out for him, but Kart Racer's move does work out. He moves up into P1 in this Grand Prix, but can he hold off the Red Bull behind? Well, someone who's not able to hold off one of the Red Bull family drivers is Patser Japser, Daniel braking deep there into turn 1, gets that move done around the outside, moves himself up into P3 now. Great position so far. He needs to find a way past his Red Bull family driver of Pro Gamer. You can see it's deep there for Japser, and has gone a little bit wide. That could be a warning for extending track limits. He does not want to get 6 seconds of time penalties in this race, so he's got to be extra cautious for the rest of these 14 laps. But you can see Kart Racer, with the power of these medium compound tyres, has already broken the DRS to Pro Gamer behind. He's going to continue to push on and show us why he is at the top of the tables here in F7, continuing to push on with that fresh medium rubber. And Pro Gamer with the old hard compound tyres just cannot compete at all. But Daniel, on the other hand, is also struggling to keep up with the Red Bull driver, which is definitely interesting to see. Maybe the Red Bull driver using plenty of his ERS, but still not being able to keep up with the DRS of Kart Racers. So you can see, yeah, Pro Gamer using a lot of his ERS, absolutely burning it, but still cannot find a way into the Alfa Romeo's DRS. GSP Payne now makes another move. 2 moves in 2 laps, looks to the outside of the Aston Martin, moves himself up into P5, still 0 seconds of time penalties too. He's in a great position in this race and could be looking for another podium. That would probably give him 100% podium rate if I'm not mistaken, but he's now looking for another move. 2 turns, 2 moves. He moves himself up into P4 after making a move on Patser Japser, and the Haas driver is on a great recovery drive so far after qualifying on the front row but being involved in that lap 1 incident. So he's now on the back of SXT Daniel, although he most likely has another stop to make in this race unless he really stretches these medium compound tyres. One driver really struggling with the track limits is IRT Renz. He's got himself up to 6 seconds of time penalties, and well, right now that would drop him all the way down to about P13. So that just goes to show how important it is to keep your car within those white lines, otherwise you could be seeing yourself finishing outside the points, which is exactly what we're going to see with IRT Renz if it continues on like this. But there's an incident between SXT Daniel and GSP Payne. He must have been trying to go side by side, one squeezed out the other. GSP Payne has come off worse though. He is now out of this race. Meanwhile, Daniel gets away with his life and his front wing, but he has fallen down to P11. So not sure what went on there. Obviously didn't catch it on camera. So yeah, Payne was on such a great recovery drive. Had made about he made those 2 moves in 2 turns. He was doing great for himself, but sadly out of this race. What could have been with GSP Payne, who knows? Maybe was on for a race win, but he is now out of the session and is obviously left. Pro Gamer has played this to absolute perfection, though. He took stayed out of that stayed out during the first safety car. With these hard compound tyres, banking on another safety car, and that's exactly what he got. So he now moves on to the medium compound tyres, which he's going to be able to take till the end of the race. SXT Daniel, though, gets himself a 3-second time penalty under safety car conditions. Maybe he can get that removed, but I'm not sure. He's now up to 6 seconds of time penalties. Pro Gamer gets a drive-through penalty for speeding under this virtual safety car. And by the way, it was only a virtual safety car, and it's now over. You can see Patser Japser, after that incident between P2 and P3, has moved up into P2, but he's also lost plenty of time to Kart Racer ahead. So, yeah, it's not going to help him out whatsoever there. But one man to watch is going to be Pro Gamer, fresh medium rubber, and can easily make it until the end of the Grand Prix, compared to some medium runners who might struggle to make it the distance, although I know a couple of them are definitely going to try. You can see Patser Japser under pressure from Miguel, the Aston Martin driver, now pretty much waving the flag for Aston Martin as his teammate is dead last, P14 for Olaf after that incident with Bugatti into turn 1. You can see the Red Bull now looks the inside. IRT Renz trying to make the move on Miguel, squeezes him, makes a correction out of the final turn and crashes out of the session. That is going to be a safety car. Surprised that a couple of drivers didn't react in time, although maybe they're intentionally staying out. But you can see Daniel is coming into the pit lane. LFR Evil Master coming into the pit lane. Are they coming in for soft compound tyres though? Maybe a couple of drivers obviously didn't have time to react to that because the safety car hadn't been officially announced. by the time they were coming past the pit lane, but maybe they could have predicted it, I'm not too sure. But yeah, IRT Renz, you saw, went side by side into turn 27, had a bit of wheel spin, made a correction into the side of Miguel, which pretty much took him out of this race. He now DNFs from this race. Lucky though that Miguel was able to get away with that, as he was a bit of a passenger there in that situation. So he continues on. He's P4 in this race, and net P3. Ice Sharky has found himself in P3 in this Grand Prix for Alpine. How he has done that, I am not too sure, but I think he might get nosebleeds being this high up the grid. Let's see if he can finish it off with the podium, maybe a race win, if he's feeling feisty enough to battle it out with the Alfa Romeo of Carbrace. We also have Alex G, who's not had a good qualifying, not had a good start to the race. He finds himself P5 in this race, so he'll definitely be happy with that. XRT Bruno once again given another chance, and he is in P6 in this Grand Prix, and he could be on for a battle for the win, but we've seen that his pace here at the Saudi Arabian circuit has not been good so far. Does anyone come into the pit lane? Kart Racer staying out. Pretty much everyone's staying out, but the Williams of Fufu on old hard compound tires is going to come into the pit lane. What I can only assume is going to be a fresh set of soft rubber, and as he comes down the pit lane, is it going to be mediums? Is it going to be softs? The answer is the soft compound tires. So that is now 4 DNFs and 3 crashes in this race. That brings us to a grand total of 13 remaining drivers. This is good though for Olaf, who gets another chance. Evil Master, another man who gets another chance, as he obviously got caught up in that incident between Bugatti, Olaf and himself at turn 1. But we now see Bugatti somehow in P8 now. He struggled with consistency all season. Maybe if he can keep it consistent for these this final half of the race, 10 laps I should say, maybe he could find himself in a points paying position, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if he's ever actually gotten points in PSGL's Formula 7, but I can find out for you right now. Go to the standings here, and if we look at Bugatti's name, the Ferrari driver, here in F7, and no, he's actually got no points to his name. He's either finished outside of the points or DNF. He's only missed 1 round here in PSGL, so he's got some great attendance, but sadly has not been consistent enough to get points. So could this be the Ferrari driver's first points finish in F7? It could be a big day for a lot of drivers, including Japster, could be getting a podium, although that 3-second time penalty is going to say otherwise. Ice Sharky could get his first podium. Miguel could get a podium here. Alex the G could do well. Bruno needs to get a good result to continue his fight. Bugatti could get his first points. Fufu could get first points in his debut, and he's on fresh softs and in the top 10, so great position to be in for your first race in PSGL's Formula 7. Then we have Daniel, who's a little further down in P11. Elifar Evil Master, who gets another chance to compete with these guys, and Olaf down in P13 on slightly worn medium rubber. So it's not been a good race for Olaf. He was looking for a race win, but had that spin at turn 22 and 3, and find himself at the very back of the grid. You can see a little bit of battling going on side by side of the safety car. I think Evil Master accidentally overtook Fufu there. But someone asking in the chat there, is the performance of every car the exact same? Well, the answer is definitely going to be yes, because we've only got one Mercedes in the top 8, and then we have a Red Bull and Ferrari in P8 and P9, Alfa Romeo in P1, Alpine P3, Aston Martin P4, Alfa Romeo, 2 drivers in the top 5. I assume that they're most likely doing great in the Constructors' Championship, and I can tell you right now, Alfa Romeo are leading the Constructors' Championship. They've been really raking in the points. Round 5, 6 and 7 were all massive points hauls for them, and also the first 2 rounds they got a decent amount of points, and yeah, they're in a great position. I think the championship battle for the constructors is between Alfa Romeo. Mercedes is 13 points behind, and then we have Aston Martin, who was 30 points behind. So Aston Martin have had a very strong pairing. They just haven't been consistent enough to get the results that they've really wanted. Although, it's hard to say because the top 3 drivers in the championship all have 60 points. But anyone outside of the top 3 in the championship has 30 points or less. So I think that's just because a lot of reserves have been racing in this Formula 7. But enough talk about the championship. Just to reiterate there, the performance of every car is equal across all PSGL divisions. But Kart Racer, we're riding on board with the Alfa Romeo driver, getting ready for this safety car restart. When is he going to pick his time? You can see going nice and slow, slowing up the grid and getting ready. You can see he's going quite early. Hopefully he doesn't get limited by the game. But you can see there, slightly faked out Japser at the final turn, and that has given him quite a good restart up against the Mercedes driver. Sharky, though, not having a good restart. Bruno maybe looking for a move into turn 1. No, just not close enough just yet. Though we see Fufu breaking a bit late into turn 1. Optimistic move into there. Cannot get it done. Tries to go for the switchback instead on Pro Gamer. That's a spin for the AlphaTauri of SXT Daniel. Got on the power too early. Contact between the Red Bull and the Williams. But SXT Daniel has had a spin. He has no front wing and he's down in P13. He's not going to be happy with himself at this stage. But yeah, he was a driver that was in for a chance of a race win. He's now down at the back of the grid. Fufu, you can see the grip of the softs compared to the mediums. He makes his way up into P9, overtakes the Red Bull driver of Pro Gamer, and a driver that's been in F7 all season. So on his debut, looking pretty decent, although Fufu, similar to Bugatti, struggling with the consistency there. You can see turning in to that high speed chicane too early once again. But we now see Evil Master trying, giving Pro Gamer a bit of a bump draft there through turn 21 on the DRS straight. But you can see using plenty of the DRS. Is he going to look to the inside? Is he going to look to the outside? Well, Pro Gamer is defending with plenty of his DRS too. Evil Master, late move to the outside. Can he make it work on the Red Bull driver who's getting absolutely swamped by all of these soft compound tire runners? He cannot defend. Fufu now making the move on Bugatti. Can he stick himself in the top 10 to get his first points of the season? Pro Gamer coming into pit lane. That could possibly be a front wing change. Miguel currently P4 on the back of Sharky. You can see Alex G's lost DRS because he's now being side by side with Bruno. Bruno moves up into P5. McLaren driver now into the top 5. Good result so far. Can he possibly get a P4? Maybe a P3 if he's able to overtake Miguel and get within 3 seconds of Patrick Japser. That was a retirement there. Daniel came into the pit lane and has retired from the session. You can see Miku there glitching out there a little bit. And Fufu looking to the inside in turn 13, making the most of these soft compound tires, gets the move done on the Haas driver. Fufu in his debut looking good for some decent points here. Evil Master, another man on his debut. He is 0 seconds of time penalty, so technically a net P7 in this race, and looking to gain more positions as he makes the most of these soft compound tires. But right now, not too much action towards the front of the field, although a little bit of action is Kart Racer, absolutely dominating this race ever since he got into the lead on those medium compound tires. 2 seconds is the gap between himself and the Mercedes driver, and he's going to continue to make that margin bigger and bigger. LFR Evil Master makes the move on Miku, although he's below 10% ERS. Meanwhile, Miku 65% ERS. Bugatti trying to defend from Oli Olaf to get his first points of the season, but you can see Olaf just has more grip than him, 4 lap pressure tires. He gets the move done. Meanwhile, Sharky is trying to make a move for P2 in this race, and that's exactly what he does. Sharky is putting in an absolutely phenomenal performance so far in this round 9 of season 31 in F7, and can he now defend this P2 position? You can see deep into turn 4 and 5. That's not set himself up nicely for these tricky bends of sector 1. And but he's got Patrick Japser behind him and a bit of clean air in front of him, although he's not going to have the use of DRS for as long as he stays in front of the Mercedes driver. Meanwhile, everyone is pretty tame in the rest of the grid right now, just making sure that they get through these final 5 laps and a half and get those crucial points that they need. There's only 12 runners in this race, one of which is completely off the back of the grid. 13 seconds is the gap between himself and the rest of the grid. So Bugatti only needs to gain 1 position in this race. Although if we take a look at penalties, Miku has 8 seconds of penalties. Fufu has 6 seconds. So Bugatti could be looking at his first points finish in PSGL, and what a finish that would be for the Ferrari driver. I'm sure he'd be very happy if he got that. But you can see Patzer Japser and iSharky using plenty of their ERS. Japser late braking into turn 27, maybe a little bit too late. I think that was a mistake from the Mercedes driver, and that is going to cost them a little bit of time. Meanwhile, we have LFR Evo Master trying to get nice and close to the back of Fufu. They've both used all of their ERS, and now their soft tires are starting to fall off a bit of a cliff right now. So they're going to be losing a lot of grip compared to the drivers around them. Kart Racer continuing to dominate, pulling out that gap to the drivers behind. Right now he's got 3 seconds behind him and a bunch of clean air in front of him. And well, he's also got a race win, a possible race win right in front of him too. Maybe he'll be winning a race in this Grand Prix. But you can see Patzer Japser makes a mistake. The Mercedes driver, that's a spin. At the exit of turn 11, I think that is. He falls all the way down to P11 and he's lost his front wing. Was that contact between another driver? Fufu now looking for a move on ICG. Is Sharky's front wing intact? It is. So I'm not too sure what happened between that driver. It could have definitely just been a spin from Patzer Japser, as you don't really go side by side into the bends of Sector 1. So sadly down in P11 now, and no front wings, so has to box for a new one. But you can see this battle is really starting to get going. P7, 6 and 5 already going at it. LFR Evo Master looks to the inside coming into this final turn. How late does he dare to brake coming into here? You can see it's late enough as he sticks to the wall, tries to get a better exit, but Fufu just has the more flowing line. You can see both these drivers absolutely sending their ERS out of the window to try and make a move on each other. Meanwhile, we have iSharky now in P2 and a decent gap between himself and Miguel behind. So iSharky and Miguel putting in an absolutely phenomenal performance so far. And Miguel has only gotten 1 podium before in PSGL F7. Meanwhile, iSharky has only ever scored 4 points. He only got 1 point finish, and that was 4 points that he got. So iSharky, who's only got 1 point finish, is now looking for a podium in this Grand Prix. So what a result that would be for iSharky. I'm sure he's absolutely shaking right now behind the wheel, but he's got to keep it consistent for these final few laps, and the most crucial out of all of them. We now have XRT Bruno currently P4 and looking to catch up to the top 3 and get himself into those podium positions, as he needs to make sure that his championship rival doesn't gain too many points on him. Right now, Kart Racer is going to pull out a 13-point lead on Bruno behind if things stay as they are. And well, in PSGL, a race win is 16 points, so that's almost a race win. It's pretty much P2 in this race plus fastest lap. So and there's only 2 more rounds to go after this, so Bruno really needs to get his act together, make the move on these 2 drivers and get himself up into P2. That way he'll only be 9 points behind finally going into the final 2 rounds, and well, that won't be as big a deficit. But you can see that was a massive snap of oversteer on the exit for Fufu. This now gives Evo Master the opportunity to make the move, and another man who's trying to make the move is Miguel. Pushes iSharky out of the way coming into turn 1 and 2 and moves up into P2. That's a spin for Fufu there. He falls all the way down to P10. Evo Master, I think there was actually an incident between them. So you saw 2 drivers that were going really aggressive. I think they've both been in this race so far have caused incidents from braking too late into turn 1. I think the exact same thing just happened there. So Fufu is now down in P10 and Evo Master in P9. They were looking at pretty decent points, but after that incident between them, not so good anymore, although they can still definitely score points in their debut. iSharky loses the position to Miguel, and Miguel on for a personal best finish. His personal best finish so far before this round 9 of Jeddah was all the way back in Japan, where I wasn't even commentating. I didn't commentate on that round. So he scored his first podium in Japan, got P3 that race. Meanwhile, Sharky is a man who's never gotten more than 4 points in a race, and he's looking to score a whole 10, but he's under plenty of pressure from the McLaren behind. The McLaren is 80% ERS. He's been charging this attack up for ages now, and he's now starting to launch it. Makes his way past Sharky. This could be an absolute masterclass from Bruno. He didn't have pace in qualifying, didn't have much pace in the race, but now by smartly managing his race and managing his ERS, he's now looking for the move on the Aston Martin on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. Around the outside he goes, leaves plenty of space on the inside. Miguel tries to go for a switchback move, but Bruno is playing this very, very nicely indeed. He moves up into P2, and he's now limiting the damage that is about to be done in the championship. So I think from the start of the race all the way until now, I think this is definitely probably one of the best positions he was going to find himself in, P2, and that's exactly where he's found himself in. So well done to Bruno. He now just needs to hold these guys off for the next lap and a half, and what should be pretty manageable with 75% ERS. I think it's going to be a bit of a breeze for him, and he's going to show us exactly why he's in a championship winning position. But you can see that's deep there from Sharky. That could have been a warning and a 3-second time penalty. Thankfully gets away with it for now. You can see Miguel is now trying to make the move with the power of the DRS. Bruno's still saving his ERS. Now he's got to use 80% ERS for the final lap, and hopefully he uses all of it. Otherwise the rest will go to waste. But you can see Sharky has got himself a 3-second time penalty. He was looking to finish on the podium. Now a top 4 is looking unlikely for him. But Bruno now has the power of the DRS for this pit straight, has 80% ERS, and he's going to absolutely fly by going on this pit straight into the slipstream, pulls out of the slipstream nice and early, and you can see the straight line speed difference between the McLaren and the Aston Martin. Absolutely rapid stuff there. Great management from Bruno so far. But you can see Sharky cracking under the pressure. This is the second time where he's broken too late into a turn, and now Alex G being overtaken by Olaf, although Olaf has a time penalty, although that's been a great recovery from Olaf to move all the way up into P4. Sadly, it's not going to be P4 at the end of the race. He's got 3 seconds. He's going to fall down to P5. Another man who's had a great recovery is Alex G. Another man who's had a great consistent race is Miguel. Another man who's had a great comeback is XRT Bruno. And obviously, with 16 Fs in this race, there was bound to be some new names at the top, and then obviously a couple of drivers that we usually see coming to the top here, finishing at the top, sadly were not able to make it. But someone just asked there, is this 100% racing? No, the race in real life is 51 laps right now. Running a 50% race with 25 laps. But you can see Kart Racer is now coming through turn 26 and getting ready to come through turn 27. Our championship leader here in Formula 7 is about to take his 3rd win in a row. So he's going to come across the line to win the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix for Alfa Romeo. And what a performance it's been. He's got 6 seconds of a gap to his championship rival of Bruno, who limits the damage, finishes P2 and on the podium. Meanwhile, Miguel matches his best finish, his best performance so far this season. He finishes P3 and on the podium for Aston Martin. Alex G makes a great recovery on those hard compound tyres, which really came into play towards the end of the race. Gets P4 in the end. Olaf, another great recovery all the way up into P5. Sharky just cracking under the pressure there towards the end of the race. Gets his best finish at P6 though. It wasn't a podium, but it's his best finish of the season. Bugatti, first points of the season for the Ferrari driver, and he's going to be absolutely ecstatic with that. So very great result for the Ferrari driver. The first race he was able to somewhat keep his consistency for the final few laps at least, and gets P7, so his best finish, and his best finish by a good bit as well. But you can now see our podium runners here. The Alfa Romeo driver of Kart Racer is your race winner today, and 3rd race win in a row. He didn't technically not his 3rd race win in a row because he missed Brazil, but he's won. He won round 6, he won round 7, wasn't able to come to round 8 and has now won round 9. So technically, he's won 3 rounds in a row that he's shown up to at least. But there you go, celebrating with the champagne. And, well, the celebrations take place, definitely, because the gap between himself and Bruno, he obviously gained 4 points this round, and the gap was 5 points before this race. So the gap between them is now 9 points. And in PSGL, 9 points is pretty much a podium or a P4. A podium, P3 is 10 points, whereas P4 is 8 points. So, it's a pretty big margin that Kart Racer's got coming into the final 2 rounds. So he's going to be pretty comfortable. These top 2 drivers just need to make sure that they don't miss either of the last 2 rounds, because obviously if they miss one of the last 2 rounds, well, I don't think they'll be winning this championship. But great race from everyone. Sadly, only 11 finishers. A lot of people DNFing. Clark had a spin. GSP Payne had an incident with one of the drivers. RT Wren's snap of oversteer out of the final turn. SXT Daniel also had an incident, and then Fufu had an incident at the towards the end of the race. But I hope you enjoyed this round 9 of the season 31 championship. Only 11 rounds in this championship, so 2 more to go. And the championship battle is getting closer and closer between XRT Bruno and the NLR driver of Kart Racer. So make sure to tune in for the next 2 races here on the PSGL YouTube channel, 8 o'clock BST on a Monday night. So I hope you enjoyed this race. I definitely did, and I definitely hope to see you all next week. So that's all from me, and hopefully we'll have Storm next week, so he'll be able to say hello.